Well, here is an e-bike that doesn't look like a SantaCruz, but it is. It's the latest SantaCruz. It is the Vala. The first time we've seen a lot of things from SantaCruz, one of those popular bike brands on the planet. It's the first time we've seen them do a 4-bar linkage. It's the first time we've seen them incorporate a Bosch e-bike system into a bike. So lots of firsts, lots of exciting things, and lots of things that I reckon are tipping people that have probably never owned a SantaCruz, give them every reason now there's no reason not to, because this thing is as good as it gets. It's a lot happening. We're about to unbox it. Scotty's been riding it for the last few months. Yeah, we were one of the first rides in Australia on this thing. Mate, let's rip in. Let's start with some key numbers.
Yeah, so this is their all-mountain e-MTB. So it's a bit of a lightweight, full-powered e-MTB. Previously, if you've checked out our YouTube channel and our printed magazine, you would have seen a little while ago we did a review on the full-powered Heckler, which this will be replacing. So 160mm of travel up front, 150 in the back, and standalone mullet, ripper.
That's the thing, standalone mullet in all sizes. So there's 5 sizes, small, medium, large, XL and double XL. There's also both carbon layups that we'd expect from SantaCruz. So we've got the C, which is kind of the slightly more affordable, and then the real Gucci CC. Now all models incorporate the same Bosch Performance Line CX, and the most exciting thing is this is the Gen 5, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep. This
is the latest and greatest Ducks Nut. SantaCruz is one of the first brands to deliver these Gen 5 motors into Australia, and there's a lot to talk about there. We'll save that for a second. We'll just keep talking about the rest. But yeah, Vala, brand new name. Yes, it's replacing Heckler. Heckler SL is staying in the range, so we're going to have Vala, we're going to have the Bullet, and we're going to have the Heckler SL, making up the 2025 e-bike lineup from SantaCruz bikes. Now the Vala, like we've mentioned before, very, very different looking bike.
100%.
Few people online when they launched this bike, well, when they first pulled the covers off this thing, a few forum buggies were like, yeah, looks good, or is this a rip-off? But look, at the end of the day, there's a reason why SantaCruz have gone for this layout. It's a first 4-bar, first time we did a horse link. Tell us a bit about why they've gone with this versus the VPP, which we're all synonymous with SantaCruz having used.
Yeah, so when we first got a bit of a snippet that they were going to release this bike, I mean, obviously it was pretty exciting. I read a few reviews and had a bit of a look at it, and like you just touched on, there's always a few pessimists, a few naysayers in the industry, but they're probably making that comment without actually riding this bike. But
they never go on anyway.
I find it actually really cool of SantaCruz to go with something completely different. It just goes to show they're not 100% committed to the VPP in a sense that they're going to be arrogant and just stay with that, especially when they're going to look at a few little options to, 1, improve the suspension kinematics, 2, fit the motor in the bike, so not compromise those suspension kinematics, so offering the best ride for their customer. But also you can run a longer dropper post now as well. So there's a number of reasons why they've gone for this 4-bar, and to say the least, it works pretty damn good.
Now, interesting too, when we look, like we love our tech, when we look at the charts of the rear linkage and how this thing works, the anti-squat is actually really, really similar to the VPP that we've seen on the Bronson,
yes,
the new Hightower. So it's actually the characteristics of what's happening there with the rear wheel, and how it's moving through its through its travel, is actually very, very akin to that sort of 100%. Feeling of a regular SantaCruz with the VPP. So SantaCruz have done a lot of tweaking on this bike. They spent a couple of years developing it. And yeah, they've brought out something that's completely different from what we're expecting. From what they've told us, this is probably going to be one of the only 4-bars they ever bring out. They're not dropping VPP from the lineup. This is just a standalone bike to get the ride quality they wanted. And you've ridden it a bunch, and well, you seem
I really like it. And I'll get into a bit more detail about it. And one thing I'll touch on is, we're lucky enough at the Mag that we get to ride a heap of different bike brands, so to speak. And all bike brands, you jump on a certain brand and it feels like that brand. You jump on another brand, it feels like that
familiar.
Brand. Very familiar. And when I first jumped on this, and I know this sounds, strange to say, but it feels like a SantaCruz.
Right.
Of course it does. It is a SantaCruz, but when I rode that previous Heckler, the full-powered one, and even the Heckler SL, yeah, they felt like SantaCruzes. I was a big fan of both those bikes, but I'll be 100% honest, I think I prefer this over the last Heckler.
All right, so let's talk about some of the differences. The Heckler, right, it had the Shimano motor. The Heckler SL had the Vazua. This guy, of course, has Bosch. Now, let's not beat around the bush. The Bosch is known for having the benchmark motor at the moment, right? That was the Gen 4 CX line performance line that so many different brands are fighting themselves to make sure they got that in there, because people are walking to bike shops, they're not necessarily saying I want, you know, that bike or this bike, they just want a Bosch powered bike. SantaCruz are smart, they realized that the market wants, they knew that there was a new gen coming, so they've basically developed the bike around that to ensure that, you know, it's the first time they can get a Bosch in there. The reason Bosch is so popular, obviously durability, performance, feel, a number of other things, and reliability.
After sales service as well, like
especially here in Australia.
100%, they're so good. I mean, and as you just said, JT, like we've ridden a lot of motors like Yamaha, you know, Shimano, Fazua, you know, Bosch, a ton of different motors. And don't get me wrong, like all the motors we ride, like there's a lot of companies out there that are doing very, very good e-bike motors, but got to say that Bosch are definitely setting the benchmark.
Yeah, I'd say so, especially with the connectivity, like the flow app that they used. I mean, that's wicked. But let's talk about the Gen 5. So the difference between Gen 4 and Gen 5 visually looks quite similar.
Yep.
That said, this is lighter. They've gone from 3 bolts and mountings down to 2 now. So it's a little bit smaller in that sense. But really, it's what's inside that connected system. So we've got the controller, which is now wireless, doesn't have a big display. We've just got the little display here on the top tube, which is brilliant. There's nothing worse than a massive computer screen hanging off your bars, I'd say. Would you agree?
Yeah, like and some other brands, like these guys make it, you know, very, very neat. One thing I will say is, like, obviously they're running, like, and you can see in the top tube on these, obviously there's a bigger face plate, and where they've actually running this like interface in
like a double mount plate.
Yeah, look, and I think that's probably a bit of a preview. I think Bosch will be probably coming with an upgraded interface, probably not too far away.
We'll have to stay tuned for that one.
Yep.
Now let's talk about the numbers of the engine. First off, battery. SantaCruz have settled on a 600 watt hour battery as stock in all Valas. Some people will be saying perfect. 600 watt hours gives me just enough juice to get my ride in without all that extra weight.
Correct.
People that are like, it's not enough juice or range, no dramas. You got the aftermarket range extender.
Yep.
Give you an extra 250 watts, which is going to give you 850 in total.
Yep.
It's got its own mount. Obviously, it's more or less the water bottle mount, all that jazz. So that's going to be available right now from the get-go. But let's talk about the numbers of the Bosch Gen 5 Performance.
Yeah, so it's a lighter bike. So I think in the lighter spec in these, they come in around about, what, 21.5 kilos?
For the complete Vala?
For the complete
Vala?
I
believe so, yeah, 21.
So it's a pretty light, full powered bike. It's still got that, you know, nice planted characteristics of an e-bike, especially when you're ploughing through all the rough section. But this thing is very nimble, very fun, very playful for a full powered e-bike. Like you said, 600 watt and 85 newton meters of torque. So
that's it. 85 newton meters of torque, that's plenty. Especially you put this thing in turbo or in boost, it is ripping you up. So there's the 4 modes. Obviously we've got Eco, which no one ever rides in. Tour, which I spend a lot of time in. Tour is brilliant because it barely pulls any juice. You can get some huge rides in Tour. Then we've got e-MTB mode, which picks from everything. And then obviously we've got the all out
full power
red mode, which is full power. Mate, let's get on to the personality bike. So we've done a bunch of filming over the last couple of weeks, but today we've done a bunch of filming. I stood on the sideline. This thing is really quiet. Now, I know a lot of the focus of the Gen 5 motor is to reduce the sort of some of the knock and whatnot that was in there.
Yep.
But that combined with the rest of the bike in terms of the frame, the wheels, it's a very quiet, and obviously the SRAM transmission down there as well. It's a very, very stealthy bike coming down the track. Like, you're hearing the tires and not a lot more.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've really noticed with this bike. You know, the previous motor I thought was very quiet. This thing is, again, quieter again. You don't hear that sort of whining noise you heard with the some of the other e-bike motors out there. So very quiet out on the trail. Battery charges nice and quickly, so very economical as well. If you want to get back out on the trails, I found that it charges very quickly as well. But yeah, again, like very, very smooth power delivery. So with some e-bikes, especially when you're climbing up those technical sections and you're getting a rush or a surge of power, you tend to lose traction in the rear wheel. Where I found this was a lot smoother power delivery, and you know, you maintained a lot more traction, especially climbing to the rubber below. So
it's easy to live with, and that's the last thing. You don't want to be putting a foot down, stop
more
it
of a
up.
natural feel.
That's what you want, right? That's exactly what you want. So we mentioned the mullet, so the smaller rear wheel. But it doesn't matter because you've still got the rollover of the e-bike motor working in there, so you've still got the benefits of more or less of having a dual 2.9. So probably smart. But in terms of playfulness, how does it feel rolling down a track?
Mate, like and I've said this so many times, you know, about really liking SantaCruz bikes. I love their previous Heckler. I love the SL. This thing is blown my mind. I've actually really enjoyed riding it. very capable, awesome on the descents, really good to climb, good to, you know, it is what it is. It's an all mountain bike. It does it all. To buy a jack of all trades bike where you can go out and hit some fat gaps, you know, rip into some corners, very, very nimble, light, playful, full powered e-bike, super fun.
Man, that's saying a lot right there. Let's just talk a little bit more, because one thing we haven't touched on yet is the adjustability that SantaCruz are building. We know that people, you know, you're spending just under 11 grand an entry level price up to sort of 20ish or whatever it is. Basically, it's an investment every bike you get. So people love to be able to tune and adjust. So like we mentioned, you got the flow out there, you can adjust your power and whatnot. But in the actual frame, there's two different setups. So we've got the high-low adjustment, but then we've also got a shock progression adjustment, which you don't see on many bikes. So tell us a little bit about how that's working on the Vala.
Yeah, so if you want a bike that's going to be going to ramp up a little bit later in the travel, you've definitely got the ability to do that. But so really, when you think about it, it's like 4 different settings, because you can run like low in one, high in the other, low and low, high and high. So you can play a little bit around with those suspension kinematics to a point, and yet you can definitely play around with your head tube angle as well. So if you want something a little bit lower, a little bit slacker, a little bit more planted, but if you want something a little bit steeper, a little bit more nimble, something that's going to corner a little bit better, then it's got those bases covered. So
now, another thing, SantaCruz in the design cues are going to a 4-bar. It's pretty smart because it's given them a lot of real estate here to work with. You easily, and also in terms of like accessing the dials and whatnot of your shock, sometimes when the shock gets horizontal and down deeper into a frame, it can be harder to access somewhere. So right here, super easy to access the dials in your shock. You could throw a coil shock in there super easy.
Definitely.
Heaps of space for a bottle mount. This is a size large frame, this one, but even the small, heaps of size. And then up here, you could easily get some tools with a frame wrap. So it's given it a lot of user space as well, which I think riders are going to really be stoked on, because people want to carry tools. They want to carry, like, you know, maybe they don't want to have a hydration pack, they want to carry a bottle, so that's cool. The range extender we touched on before. So, you know, having that open triangle, front triangle.
But you look at this in the flash, like it's hard to tell from your TV or, you know, PC at home or whatnot as well. They go, and some of the naysayers, like I touched on before, they go, oh, it's just a 4-bar. When you actually look at this in the flesh, the detail these guys have gone to, they haven't held back. Like, they've done this properly.
Well, it's still got all the things you'd expect from SantaCruz. It's still SantaCruz hardware, the pivots, the bearings, whatnot, lifetime warranty, all the things you expect from SantaCruz.
100%.
It's just they've just gone with a different
so neat
design.
Yeah, it looks really, even like the little guard here to keep the grit and that out of your lower bearings and out of, you know, the back of your motor and whatnot as well. Yeah, man, like even down, like we said before, down to the paint job. Like, the paint job looks amazing, super durable. I think they changed the cable routing a little bit as well, so it didn't go in through. So again, like with the routing of the cabling, and that again comes down to how quiet the bike is as well. So they've definitely gone the extra mile as far as detail goes. And again, like, they've really stuck to their sort of size specific geometry as well. So depending on the size bike you get, you're going to get the same ride compliance, whether you're 192 centimeters tall like me, or you're 175 centimeters tall. Depending on what size bike, you're going to get the same ride quality throughout the range.
Mate, to wrap this up, we know that you like the Heckler a lot. That was going to be the Heckler SL was our e-bike of the year. The Heckler was a strong candidate for our e-bike of the year last year. The replacement, the Vala. Have they improved on the Heckler?
They've definitely lifted their game. I really like that Heckler. So any of you guys out there have still got a Heckler, you've got an excellent bike. I love riding that bike. Would I buy one of these?
I would.
100%.
That's what I said. Don't scratch them around there.
100%. I would buy one of these. I've absolutely loved riding this bike.
An easy bike to live with is your one e-bike.
Dude, if I could have an e-bike in the quiver in the shed, and I could only choose one, I think this would be right up there on the top of the shopping list.
Very interesting. And also, like we mentioned before, awesome to get a chance to ride the Gen 5 Bosch motor. So
definitely,
all in all, pretty rad bike. Heaps of fun to do some skids and wheelies on out and trails.
Definitely. So yeah, check out the up and coming printed magazine. Make sure you check out our YouTube channel, like and subscribe.
Any comments you get, drop them below and we get back to you as we always do. Until then, until next time.
Thanks for having us.
Catch you later.
You.